Chapter 2 The Misfit Omega Elsa's Point of View.
Ah, ah, I moaned, trying to keep it low as I pushed the vibrator inside my pussy. I was in a hurry and in need of an immediate release, so I increased the speed to get it done with. Also, I was careful not to insert it too much. I wanted to save my flower for the one special one, for my mate. I know it's foolish of me to even save for a mate with the way things are. Like those in rom-com werewolf novels, it's not so easy to find a true mate. He could be right there, standing next to you, and you would never know it. Obviously, there is this attraction, but it's not significant. I mean, you get those fluttery feelings and girl crush on any random hot-looking male. You can only know if they are your true mate after establishing physical contact. The more contact grows, the stronger it becomes. But it's also a whirlpool of sexual rendezvous. I've seen all the girls entering the path, trying to find their one true soulmate, and then getting lost somewhere. See, we are part wolves. Sex is an instinct like coffee is to humans. I know, weird comparison, but that's how it is. Once you taste it, you can't stop craving more. So here I am, trying to get a release at 5 o'clock in the morning, so that I don't go into heat and attract unmated or unmarked werewolves. The only fear I have is that I'll never find my true mate, and like almost everyone else, one day get down the same path and finally settle down with some guy by marking each other, be in the claiming or not. As I dared the tool a little more inside, I let out a low, loud moan. I tried to fantasize about the things I wanted my mate to do with me. Being a werewolf had its pros and cons. Pros like better vision, strength, hearing skills, agility, and mind link. And cons like a crazy appetite for sex and the ranking culture. I mean, I don't understand the ranking culture. Maybe because I'm the lowest Omega in my pack. Even the other Omegas do not think I deserve to be in their company. I never felt the need to bow down to anybody, nor do I understand the unfathomable allegiance they showed to the Alpha, even when he was clearly being an ass. But did I protest? No. I was afraid that I would be thrown out of the pack and be left alone. I'm scared to be a rogue. At least here I can be a wolf. As I increased the speed to the highest, I covered my mouth with my other hand. I could feel the muscles contracting and the funny feeling inside of me. And just like that, I had the same monotonous orgasm that I badly needed to control my heat. After I was done, I quickly got up and cleaned myself with a hot shower to calm my tensed muscles. I am one of those girls who always needs a hot shower. I was terribly late due to my morning exercise, and I was in a hurry to go to the kitchen. It was my duty to cook breakfast for the pack house before going to college, and that starts in another 2 hours. When I reached the kitchen, I was confused. I mean, I did clean it and wash all the dishes. Then how is it such a mess? I wondered how I was going to make it on time, but I had to if I wanted to survive one more day. It was a Monday, and everyone would be in a grumpy mood as they had to go to school or work or something after the weekend. And those who didn't work were grumpier that they had nothing to do when everyone else had something to do on a Monday. I tried to clean whatever was necessary for breakfast and put the rest of the utensils in the dishwasher. I quickly made some bacon and cheese sandwiches and boiled eggs. I also prepared some fresh fruit juice, and also lime juice for those that would be having a hangover from last night's party that I obviously was not invited to. I brewed some coffee, and by the time I was done with all of it, it was already 7. I grabbed a sandwich and packed my coffee to leave for college before anyone could actually make a statement on how I could have made it better or take out their anger on me for no particular reason. Also, Mostly I was scared to face Martha, the one who was in charge of prepping lunch. She would not like so many dishes to be washed. I was early getting to the college that the rest of our pack attended, so I went to the cafeteria to enjoy my packed food. A few others were already seated, and they were discussing something seriously. It was about the claiming. It's always about the claiming around this time of year. But, boom, that's when I eavesdrop on the bomb kind of news. We, the Red Moon Pack, were the official hosts this year? But why? Is it because they want to announce Riker as the new Alpha? My God, I hope not. He's hated me ever since I spilled my coffee on him in 7th grade. My life will be more hellish than it is right now. I lost my appetite. More work, more craziness. And this time I'm of age to participate in the claiming. No one expects me to, but should I? The other pack wolves might be interested in me, and I might just find my mate and go away to his pack. It was all too alluring, but a big risk was involved. Participating in the claiming means I have to participate in the chase, and I would lose my virginity to some random guy, and I don't want that. I'm just stubborn about finding true love. I felt so unloved all my life that I'm too attached to the idea of being with my fated one, the one who's made for me. I felt like a complete misfit, an Omega who had no loyalty or devotion for her Alpha. And to top that off, completely believed that her new Alpha was an ass. Someone who was a rebel, yet the most invisible person one could be. Maybe I was bipolar. I somehow dragged through the day, and when I couldn't take it anymore, I blew off a few classes to go for a run in the wild. No one had actually seen me shift. They never cared to find out. I was a late bloomer. By the time I was able to shift, I was already pushed down the rank, and I had no one to stand for me. I never felt the need to come out, as I never felt close to my pack. Also, I feared they would go crazy if they ever saw my wolf, Ayla. Ayla is my only friend. She's a rebel inside me, and I'm not the one holding her back with my myths and dilemmas. When Ayla is the one in control, everything else feels already so much better. I've yet to discover her survival skills, but I'm sure she would do just fine if we were ever expelled from the pack. I ran like crazy to the waterfall, my hideout. No one really comes there anymore after the last battle. So much blood was shed. But I was abandoned here amidst the battle cry. Romero was kind enough not to leave me as a rogue. Who knew? I could be the child of one of those rogues, or could be the child of one of the many packs whose parents died fighting for the Moonlit City. That was one of the reasons I was never accepted. I never belonged to this pack in the first place. An orphan with weird gold-tinted silver eyes, and hairs that were so long that you needed to keep chopping and dyeing them every week to fit in. They said I was an abomination. Some said I definitely belonged to the rogues who were experimenting too much. I had always been a misfit. While I was lost pondering over my past, I could feel a pair of eyes lurking on me. The kind of eyes that set me on fire. It was so unsettling that I changed back to my human self. I quickly put on my clothes from my backpack that Ayla was carrying for me. I had to do a detour to go to the other side of the waterfall due to the depth. And also I had hydrophobia. Yay, so much for my hiding place. I tried a lot to find out who it was, but I could not find anyone except a mild, strong essence that was left behind. Obviously, whoever was lurking near the borders of the Moonlit City was too powerful. I hope it's not another rogue. I changed back to my wolf quickly after packing my clothes back in my backpack. I ran like my life depended on it. I mean, it all could due to my exhaustion, the heat almost at bay, and my overthinking of my past. But it was very unsettling. When I reached the pack house, I saw the decorations had already begun. No one, not even a single soul, missed me. And I guess it still hurts, but it was good in some way. No one was going to shout at me, at least, with all the professional chefs and cooks. I guess my workload will decrease. But as soon as I was going to escape to my hole, Martha saw me. "Elsa, where do you think you're going? Who's going to do all the work? There's so much to be done, and we're only 2 weeks away." She groaned as if I was the only one who was responsible for some kind of delay or something. Just a quick shower?" I asked, raising my eyebrows. She looked as if I had asked for a kidney or something, but her silence was my cue to leave and return as soon as possible. I went to my room and looked for my vibrator. The heat was getting worse. Ever since I turned 21, it was maddening. It felt gross to finger myself. Hence, I relied on the tool. I had a quick release and was all set for work. There were really enough volunteers and professionals, but it's just that Riker wanted to show that his pack was responsible in doing most of the work, which means we Omegas had to do most of the work. That directly means I was going to be dead by the end of claiming. Only the Omegas who were participating in the claiming were allowed to take a break 2 days before the claiming. I wish I was taking part. I started with cleaning the backyard when I could feel the same strong presence I'd felt near the waterfall. I tried to look for it, but nothing. So I started working in the garden. Not long after that, Angela dumped a full bag of clothes in front of me. Angela was the angel of our pack. It was an open secret that Riker had his eyes set to claim Angela this claiming, but only the moon goddess knew what she wanted. I knew it was my cue to leave all this and do her laundry. I wasn't gone long when I bumped into someone sturdy. He was quick enough to catch me from falling, but not good enough to protect the clothes. If there was a single mark on the clothes that wouldn't go, I was screwed for life. He helped me pick up the clothes. He was handsome and strong, but there was something more about him that caught my attention. I could feel that essence on him. I wasn't sure if it was emitting from him or if it was his. I don't know why, but suddenly I had this idea that he might be my mate. I looked at him with puppy eyes, but he only gave back a kind and puzzled look. He helped me get to my feet and gather the clothes. I was so smitten by him by then that I could feel the heat rushing through my veins. I gulped my saliva and looked at his neck with lust completely taking over me. But as soon as my eyes fell on his marking spot, my dream and desire shattered. He was marked. Doesn't matter, mate or not. He was already taken.
"I'm happily married,"
he said, understanding my anticipation. I felt embarrassed. I mean, how could I be so vulnerable? This time I gulped down my saliva with fear and ran for the second time that day as my dear life depended on it. Tears were building up in my eyes, waiting to break down at any moment. But I wasn't gone long. Angela stopped me and gave me her evil look. She looked pissed. "What were you doing with Jander?" she asked. No, she was spitting venom. "Who?" I asked, confused. Obviously, I didn't know who Jander was. "Oh, now you're going to act like Goody Two-Shoes? Aren't you a clever bitch?" She was fuming, and I was confused. "I don't know what you're saying," I asked, still unclear. "That man you bumped over there, trying to flirt? I mean, you're not even willing to leave the married ones, slut?" She name-called me, and that left me wondering if she had gone mad. Wasn't being a slut what they all did here? "I wasn't flirting with him, and I don't know him," I said truthfully. "I mean, I technically never flirted with him. It's just that for some reason I think he might be my mate." But she did not need to know that. "Why are you lying? Who doesn't know Jander Black, the beta of Black Moon Pack?" She looked suspiciously. I mean, obviously anyone would. They were the most famous pack. Every girl's fantasy was to be mated or marked to some wolf from that pack. The perk was that their alpha, Raphael Black, was still single and young. "I didn't know it was him," I said slowly. She gave me a stern look, but I just left like nothing happened to earn some death glares that were burning holes in my back. As I ran to the laundry room, I kept wondering about the devilishly handsome Raphael for some reason. Gosh, I blushed to myself.
Chapter 3. The Spy Next Door. Elsa's point of view.
I had never seen the Red Moon territory this beautiful. It was like it was Christmas or New Year's Eve. The entire pack territory was decorated, even the remote places. The woods to the south of the pack, where the claiming would occur, was taken care of too. Small, cozy, temporary huts were created in random exotic locations. They were lighted with small, dim lights to give a romantic vibe. No two huts placed close together to give the couples full freedom to explore each other. It was weird how sex was celebrated here, but the romance was in the air, and so was my heat. I had to remind myself 100 times not to get swayed away and take part in the claiming. Also, I'm pretty sure no one would want me. I was the pack's weird girl. Everything about me was weird. My clothes, my shoes, and my makeup skills. And I had extremely pale skin and weirder eyes. I sometimes feel like I'm crazy, or I really was a product of some experiments done by rogues, as some people think. But now this was my life, and I wanted to make things right. There were 2 ways. 1, find a mate and get accepted in his pack. 2nd, study so hard I can officially leave the pack to live among humans in some distant city. I worked hard, really hard, for my second way out, but my heart yearns for my mate. There was only a few days left, and the Omegas, who were going to partake in the claiming, had stopped working, which is like almost everybody. The mated or marked werewolves generally stayed away from this, and I understand why. I too would not want my mate anywhere near this. The seniors too maintained their distance, except for the last day where the couples claim and mark each other. So this was going to put a lot of pressure on me.
Elsa!
Someone called me while I was folding napkins and daydreaming. I flinched as if I was caught doing something wrong, but then quickly regained my composure. It was Riker. I'm not sure why on earth he would want to talk to someone like me, but he was going to be the next alpha, and I have to act my loyalty. I bowed down, showing a fake courtesy, and inquired for his sudden, uninformed intrusion in the best possible manner.
Elsa, I'm disappointed you'll not be taking part in the claiming, even though you're of age. But that is going to make you officially the senior-most, in charge of events when we're going to participate in the claiming. Like every year, everyone else is 18 and above are taking part just to get the vibe out of it and help us in a smooth flow,
Riker said seriously. I'm sure there would be someone elder than me and single, like Martha. I'm barely 21. I tried to get away from the terrible responsibility. I didn't want to be anywhere near the claiming, especially when Raphael was going to be here. Due to some unbeknownst reason, ever since that night, I had a major crush on him. It's not like I hadn't known him before. He was a celebrity in our world. But like I said, due to some strange unknown reason, I was infatuated with the big bad wolf.
Well, Martha's too old and might not approve of most. Also, don't forget that we have the Red Moon Pack Day. Seniors from other packs are coming, and they would need attention and care too, so Martha's going to take care of that.
He tried to reason. For once at least he was talking to me as if I were a person and not a thing to be used. Are you sure there is no one else who can take this role? I'm only an Omega and Elsa. I'm sure the betas will not listen to me, even if they are younger than me. I reminded him about the facts of our pact. Wasn't he one of my first bullies?
I know. So I'm going to officially announce that tonight. No one's going to go against me. And no matter how filthy you are good at doing these chores and serving people. You can guide them to be just like you. Stay invisible and watch things from afar, or better not poke at all.
And there goes all his niceness. He thinks I'm an invisible team leader and can make others invisible. Was he mad? I know it's not advisable for people to pursue anyone younger than 21, and also I know no one follows it, which leads to a lot of ruckuses. A few years back, the last claiming day was officially canceled, so no one wants anything like that to happen again. But entrusting me with that was a big mistake. For God's sake, I'm a nobody, and no one was going to listen to me. But like the dumb person I am, I agreed to it anyway. I'm probably hardwired to never be able to say no, and then fail at things miserably. My life lessons needed a serious upgrade. And just like that, I was welcoming a lot of boos and thumbs down on the night before the Red Moon Pack Day when Riker announced the weirdest thing that anyone could imagine. The rules were clear. Follow me. By that, they meant be invisible like me, be at everyone else's service, never raise the voice, accept everything is your fault, and treat everyone with a giving and endless giving nature. And mostly to stay away from them physically. It was not an unknown fact that I was a virgin. I mean, who would like to have sex with me in the first place and invite all the drama that I carry? Being a virgin in a werewolf community was like being a whore in the human world, I believe. It was the nastiest thing someone can call you. It has the ability to make you want to rip yourself apart. It's so humiliating that it makes you believe that you're not needed or desired. And mostly, it was true in my case. And that is the reason why I was so obsessed with finding my mate. The next day, guests started arriving. Based on their ranks and titles, accommodation and hospitality were provided to them, but that was only restricted to the places they stay. They were all allowed to mingle near the gazebo. I was doing my own duty perfectly and failing as a team leader. No one really cared what I said, and Bianca was the unofficial leader. Honestly, I was relieved. I was never a team player. So much for being a wolf. But ever since the news of the Black Moon Pack's arrival reached my ears, Ayla was acting crazy. She was jumping to go and have a peek at Raphael. But I was not allowed there. Angela and the others were taking care of the arrangements for the most special guests, which meant we did everything in the back and they were just carrying it out to the main screen. And just like that, the day passed and the coronation of Riker was done. Everyone was celebrating and happy. I was the only one not finding any joy in any of that. I was hoping Raphael would at least be present at the coronation ceremony and I could get a glance at him, but he was nowhere to be seen. I was not able to understand my unreasonable desire, but I had this huge fangirl crush on him already that was getting too difficult to get rid of. I lost all my hope and prepared for the evening gala. We were strictly asked not to make ourselves too obvious at the party. Even if Raphael would appear, it was going to be impossible to steal glances at him where the crowd was free and unfocused on anything in particular, except maybe for Raphael. But what guarantee was there that he was going to be there in the first place? The evening started in full, and there was no sign of Raphael, even when I could see Jander and his wife. They were stuck to each other like glue. I started to believe that it was for my own good. I don't want a Raphael breaking my resolution. As I was trying to somewhat settle my erratic feelings, I went to the pack house for a breather. No one would miss me for an hour. The party would be going on the whole night, maybe, and I needed a small break, a shower, and a change of clothes. The pack house, for a change, seemed silent and quiet. It was the most beautiful place in the entire territory for once. I liked being alone, far from the crowd, and who knew who in the pack house would come to my rescue this time? I went near the staircase to go to my room on the first floor. It was small yet cozy. It was my heaven. But when I reached near the stairs, the pack house was not silent as I expected it to be initially. I could hear a faint moaning sound coming from upstairs. I wasn't sure who would be upstairs having sex while missing the party of the year, but it wasn't that surprising, considering we are wolves, or at least based on what I've seen my entire life. I just hoped it was not one of the younger ones, because otherwise I will be screwed big time. If Riker finds out, he won't tolerate it. I quickly rushed upstairs, following the moaning sounds. I finally spotted the room. It was the pack casual meeting and entertaining room for VIPs. Not everyone could enter inside it. Interestingly, I had access to most of the rooms, because otherwise who would clean the trash after all the fun? I was apprehensive to barge in and started fidgeting outside the door. The noise was loud and intense. It was like the girl inside was having the sex of her life. But as I listened carefully, the voices sounded strangely familiar. I couldn't point them out exactly, but I was getting nervous. What if it was one of the younger ones that I'd been seeing a lot of the past 2 weeks? But I needed to be sure. What if it was some high-ranking wolf? No matter what she was doing or what the rules were, I would be the one landing in trouble. With no other option left, I peeped through the keyhole, something I never thought I would be doing in my entire life. But life has always given me the opposite of what I expected. After letting out a long sigh, I bent down to see who was inside the room. I felt like those spies from the movies. Boom! Thunder fell on me. It was none other than Angela getting nasty with some male. The male wolf was bare-bodied and had muscles to die for. I could feel my mouth watering at the sight. I gulped down my saliva. It was like I was frozen in place. I couldn't help but watch more. Angela was completely naked, and her legs wide apart, sitting on top of the meeting table. The male wolf was standing in front of her and finger-fucking her roughly. She was moaning like crazy. And that's when I could not help but feel my arousal. Juices started flowing down, and I was getting carried away. But not long after, I could see the man stopping whatever he was doing, disappointing Angela. He turned back, and before I could see his face, I got up and started running from the place. I would be dead if they found me watching them. Also, Angela would not be throwing at any random guy, no matter how handsome they were. Obviously, it was going to be someone powerful and influential. She had already started her game, and I would be a fool to even have any kind of attraction towards her target. I ran without even stopping for air till I reached my room, my sanctuary. I took a deep breath and quickly got inside the shower. I needed to remove any trace of my arousal. I took a hot shower. I even used shampoo and body wash twice. Then I changed into a fresh pair of clothes that were prepared for us for the royal party. I did a bit of makeup, putting on lipstick and mascara and a few other things. Martha would have raised suspicion on why I was getting there so late, and I could lie and say that I was getting ready for the party. Oh boy. I finally went to the party wearing my high pumps to face my demons and to face what the future had in store for me.
Chapter 4. Facing the Demon. Elsa's point of view.
I don't know how you're going to handle the claiming all by yourself. You have no sense of time nor any responsibility. You're so slack. No sense of gratification either. Martha kept on going when I showed up late, but I put on a deaf ear and did what I do best. Look down at my shoes. At least today they were heels, not a pair of old sneakers. After a long speech, I could finally let go and stop staring at my shoes. I let out a long sigh and wore the mask designed for the people who were going to arrive. It was kind of a relief for a change. No one could recognize me, and hence they were nice to me. Some even thanked me for a change. I guess I should wear a mask every day. The place was so full of life and hustle and bustle. But suddenly, everything came to a standstill. Everyone was murmuring, and most of the crowd looked towards the entrance. I mean, they were not even half this interested when Riker entered. But did I care? No. I was somehow over waiting for Raphael, and so there was nothing that was going to excite me anymore. As I tried to push through the crowd to refill my jar, I saw girls swarming over a tall figure. He was a head taller than most of the girls, so despite the crowd I could clearly see his face. It was Raphael. Raphael Black, the alpha of Black Moon Pack. It froze me to the place I was standing. Raphael looked marvelous, better than the magazines and photos flooding on the internet. He was bewitching. He had beautiful, black, dark, deep eyes, and I wanted to drown in them. His ruffled, raven-black hair suited his slightly tanned skin. His black shirt fitted like a neck's skin to him, roughly showing his chiseled torso and spectacular build. He was extraordinary, ravishing. I couldn't help but wonder how it would feel when his long fingers touched my bare skin. I was scanning him shamelessly and swallowed a large amount of saliva. I could feel 1,000 things in my heart, and my hormones were acting crazy. If not in his eyes, I was certainly going to die in the pool of my erratic hormones. I couldn't help but feel a twitch between my legs that went up to my stomach and unsettled my heart. Just to stand still, I clenched the hem of my skirt and kept looking at the most extravagant sight in front of me. I wasn't alone. Raphael's gorgeous persona charmed everyone, praying and needing him. But for the first time, I had those urges for someone, and I knew I could never have him. That was the closest I could ever get to him. So I just let the world die and admired the demigod while basking in his charm. I felt aroused. I felt tingly, and I felt the heat coming back. Not long after that, I could feel the juices between my thighs. But my underwear wasn't even damp before I could feel the entire crowd looking at me as if I was something impossible. And among them, I could see Raphael's eyes fixated on me. Third-person point of view. It filled the entire room with the most exquisite scent, a virgin's arousal. How was this even possible? The male wolves were eager to know who it was. Everyone wanted to be the one to claim the virgin. Raphael's eyes darkened with lust. This claiming he needed to claim the virgin. It had been quite a long time since he'd been someone's first, but this was not the first time he'd been around an aroused virgin. So why was he feeling so impatient and attracted to her? The pull was so strong that he could hardly breathe without touching her. He needed this woman. He would start a war if he needed to, but she was going to be only his. Elsa cursed herself. How could she get wet in a room full of unmated, hungry wolves? This time she might not escape her fate. It looked like it was sealed. One of them was going to claim her, right there and then, if she didn't make a quick escape. She broke her eye contact with Raphael and made for the door. So many of them wanted to pursue her, but not one had the guts when they saw Raphael making a run behind the mysterious woman behind the mask. But she was fast, extremely fast. Raphael wondered if she was a good fighter. Good for him. He will have fun later. He had a thing for strong women who could stand up for themselves. He absolutely hated damsels in distress. The way she was making this run, and had protected herself all these years, was enough to make him want her more and more. But like magic, she disappeared into the thick woods. Her clothes and accessories were scattered everywhere. They were oozing with her heavenly scent. It tempted Raphael to stop and treasure them, but he was certainly running behind. He quickly shifted into his humongous wolf Jera and started following the scent. As soon as he shifted, Jera could smell the essence from before.
It was faint, but it was the most refreshing one he'd ever smelled. He let out a groan. Jera was sure it was the same wolf whose scent he had picked up that day. He was euphoric. He let out another growl in ecstasy while following the faint smell that he could not quite recognize. On the other side, Ayla was running as fast as she could, with no care for the branches and twitches she was breaking. She had not gone long inside the wood when she picked up the powerful essence from weeks before. She was even more alert. What if it was a rogue? What if it was one wolf from the party who wants to claim her? She wasn't sure if she was ready for a fight, but she was definitely going to put one up if that was what it came to. Crack! A bullet passed by Ayla. It terrified Elsa. They were already deep inside the wolves, and a powerful wolf was behind her. For all she knew, there could be more, and she was getting certain that they were under attack from the rogues. She wanted to run back to the pack and inform them about it, but she was too far, and they were probably already inside. Ayla tried to use the mind link, but she didn't know how to do that. The pack members never really used that with Elsa, and this far out she had no one to link to either. Crack! Another bullet came from the front. They were certainly getting closer to her. She had no other option but to fight. Ayla let out a loud growl while Elsa cried for help. A strong brown wolf jumped on Ayla, but she was good. She didn't waste a second and made a jump higher than the wolf had, biting the brown wolf's neck. And just like that, it was dead. 3 more wolves surrounded her from 3 sides. They were rogues. One of them made a move on Ayla, but she hissed at it ferociously, showing off her bloodied teeth. Her silver eyes were shining brightly under the moonlight like the moon goddess herself. Her white fur was bloodied near the mouth. But other than that, she looked like a diva, strong and powerful. The other wolf winced a bit seeing the incredible beast in front of him, and took a step back. The other 2 wolves seemed irritated by that and attacked together. Ayla was fast enough to dodge them, but that's when another sound of a gunshot followed. This time the bullet hit Ayla, and she groaned in pain. The bullet was made of silver and covered with wolfsbane. As the silver started mixing with her blood, Ayla twitched in pain. The other 2 wolves grinned. The third, now recovered, too joined them. Ayla wanted to fight, but she was too weak. She never thought she would die like that, a virgin and unwanted. Elsa's entire miserable life flashed before her, and she cried in pain, but no one was near her to hear them. She shifted back to her human self when she could not take the pain anymore. Her human body would have a better ability to deal with the coated silver bullet than her wolf. She lay there, naked, submitting to fate. Either she was going to die, or she was going to get kidnapped by these wolves. Either way, it was the end of her dreams. Tears escaped her eyes as she laid there and writhed in pain. The 3 wolves and a man, probably in his human form from firing all this time, moved towards her. She could barely hear the man asking the wolves to carry her outside the borders and to make sure she wasn't dead. It relieved her that at least she wouldn't die. But she didn't want to be a rogue either. Everything started getting dizzy. She faintly pleaded with them to leave her alone, but the man chuckled as if it was all a joke. The wolves looked at her as if she was food. Just before passing, she saw another humongous midnight black wolf jumping at the 3 wolves and crushing the neck of one of them while ripping out the heart of another with his claws. The 3rd wolf seemed to be hurt somehow. The man raised his gun. Jera, the black wolf, was fast enough to rip it out of his hand, but before he could kill him, Elsa made a faint murmur pleading to save her life. That was enough to distract Jera and give an opening to the 3rd wolf and the man. The man jumped on the wolf, and they made a run to escape out of the territory. Jera didn't want to pursue the rogues. All he wanted was to protect the timid, unconscious girl in front of him. Raphael, on the other side, was forcing his way out. He too wanted to make sure the petite figure was safe. Jera happily gave Raphael back control, who picked up the wounded Elsa and tried to carry her, making sure he or nothing else touched the wound and made it worse. Not long after, other wolves found them. Among them were Riker and Jander. They immediately arranged for Elsa to get admitted to the pack hospital. The apprehension and dejection on their faces of the Red Moon members when they found out that the hurt girl was Elsa did not go unnoticed by Raphael. He decided to find out more about it when it was time. Fighters secured the border. No matter what, the claiming was too important for them to cancel. No one wanted to wait for another year. Liriana stepped up to stay with Elsa in the hospital when she saw that no one from the Red Moon Pack was interested in being with Elsa. Even the doctor wasn't too keen on helping her out. He heeded Elsa's wounds out of respect towards Riker and Raphael. Neither Raphael nor the Beta could understand the ill treatment towards Elsa, but Raphael felt the need to find out more. The doctor informed her that luckily the bullet had just grazed the skin and did not do any actual damage to her. He also added that just because it was the first time she was getting in contact with Silver and Wolfsbane, her wolf and body had to put up a lot of strength to fight it back. One thing even he couldn't explain was the speed at which Elsa was recovering after the scraps of Silver and Wolfsbane were cleaned up from her wound. It seemed like she would stand on her own 2 feet the next day, with hardly any scar by the next day. Raphael, Jander, and Liriana found it extremely weird and decided to find out the truth behind this mystery girl, whose name they had discovered to be Elsa Silver. The next morning, Elsa was already awake and walking, surprising everyone who was not of the Red Moon Pack. The Red Moon Pack members were more hostile, and the hatred in their eyes was evident. However, no one said anything. For all they knew, Elsa could be crazy or a criminal in her pack, which is why members seemed to hate her and not care about her at all. But this wasn't enough for Raphael, who was by now smitten by the girl and the mystery surrounding her. He also couldn't deny the fact that the wolf with the exotic scent and the virgin were not different, but Elsa herself. He wanted to claim her, find out about her, but they were leagues apart, and to his disappointment, she was up and well but not taking part in the claiming. He had 1 day before the claiming to change things. He let out his devilish smirk. Something terrible was cooking in his mind, and without care for the world, he set out to achieve his goals. Elsa. Elsa Silver, here I come to claim you, Raphael thought to himself. He grinned, letting out a charming smile that made all the women already swooning over him drop to their knees. Chapter 5. Undeniable Attraction. Elsa's point of view. Elsa, you have to take part in the claiming, and that's final, Romero said in a very stern voice. Riker stood behind him in support. My head was spinning. Wasn't it clear from the beginning that I don't want to take part in it? Why force me suddenly at the last moment? But I don't want to, I said for the 100th time. I was starting to lose my temper. We aren't asking you to, Riker said this time. I looked at him with unbelieving eyes. And why is that? I raised my voice a bit and looked him in the eyes. He flinched at that. How dare you speak to your alpha like that? Are you going to stay unmarked, unclaimed, and unmated all your life? Romero banged on the tabletop. He was clearly furious. I was taken aback at that. I did fear him. After all, he is the alpha who sheltered me and also made my life hell. It's my choice if I want to mate or not, I tried to reason. And also is it your choice if you get publicly aroused and let everyone know about your virgin pussy? Riker fumed. Romero gave him a stern look for the language he used, but he did nothing apart from that. I felt wronged, humiliated, but I was helpless. It's not my fault, and it's not like anyone would be interested in me if my mask was off, even if I am a virgin. I tried to play the victim card. It's not just about the Red Moons. The other pack member wolves are also here. They have raised concerns. Some even think you might be their mate. They're worried they'll never know if you don't participate in the claiming. Romero tried to reason with me this time.
And what guarantee do I have I will be claimed by my mate? I questioned back.
Look, you can always walk out if you're not interested once a male wolf approaches you. No one can force you, so just don't create a fuss and take part.
Riker was completely irritated by now. But I wanted to keep arguing.
No ifs, ands, or buts anymore. No more discussion. You're taking part. How would it look to the others when the Red Moon members don't take part in an event organized by us? It's settled,
Romero said with such finality that I had no way of replying to it. I lowered my head and left, cursing my terrible fate. I never wanted to be in such a situation. I wanted to save myself. I was going to make sure I was walking out of it as soon as a male approached me, no matter if it was the most desirable and most amazing and most handsome Raphael himself.
Raphael's point of view. I could feel her apprehension every time Romero or Riker asked her to take part in the claiming. The girl was impossible. I mean, being a werewolf, she was pure and 21 plus. She was beautiful. A great jawline, height, milky skin, glowing face, and those luscious lips. Ugh, I was getting a hard-on just thinking about her. I couldn't understand how her pack members could resist such beauty. I wanted to know what she had done to get such cold treatment. Obviously, it couldn't be that bad, otherwise she would have been banished already. I was afraid she was bullied. If that's so, I'll make sure this beauty is moved to my pack. But obviously, first I have to claim her. I've never felt such a pull for anyone, except maybe Davinia. But she's not my mate. What we share is stronger, I guess. We're physically and emotionally so compatible. Plus, she doesn't bind me to her. I cannot, and most importantly, I don't want to tie down myself to anyone. I just hope this new girl could be someone like Davinia for me. Of course, no one can replace what I share with her. Davinia is Luna material, and this girl is merely an Omega. I mean, I'm surprised she stood her ground for so long.
It's not my fault, and it's not like anyone would be interested in me when my mask is off, whether I'm a virgin or not.
She sounded miserable. I mean, was she so undesired? Then why do I feel her so attractive, and this pull is making me and my wolf crazy? I'm sure it's her virgin smell, but still, it's so refreshing. I was getting anxious now. She was hell-bent on not participating in the claiming, and I cannot let that happen. I needed her. So badly. It took me so many useless deals to get Romero and Riker to make her participate in this. Deals I wouldn't have agreed to otherwise. They're not even half our level to get a deal with our pack. No ifs, ands, or buts anymore. No more discussion. You are taking part. How would it look to the others when the Red Moon members won't participate in the event that we organized? It's settled, Romero said with such finality that even I was feeling his alpha aura. I was sure she could feel it too, and she had to submit now. And when I didn't hear any more arguments, I let out a heavy sigh. After she left the room, Riker opened the secret door for me. I couldn't hide my satisfaction, but they didn't look too happy, which made me curious. Your faces don't look like you sealed a deal with the strongest pack, I groaned in annoyance. Because we're afraid that you're not going to like the end of your bargain for long, Riker raised his voice. I gave him a stern look. Romero was wise enough to control his son. Nobody messes with Raphael Black. Alpha Raphael. Riker spoke in your interest only. Forgive his tone, Romero reasoned for his son's lunatic behavior. What interest? I queried. That girl, Elsa, Romero seemed to be at a loss for words when Riker picked up to say the rest. Elsa is worse than a rogue. She's an abomination, Riker said with such finality that it baffled me. I wanted to know more. And why would you say so? She looks perfect to me, I said to know more things about her. The mystery was beginning to kill me. She was not from our pack from the start. It was the last war that Moonlit City fought, and there she was abandoned near the waterfall. She was accepted by Romero. He had to, as she was in our territory, and it would have made us look bad. But as days passed, everyone started to notice weird things developing. First, her eyes. They changed to silver with golden tints. So unnatural. Name a wolf with such eyes. And then her hair. It too changed color to silver. She dyes it, but we know it. Riker paused, looking at Romero. When Romero nodded his head, Riker continued with the rest. We believe she is a product of the experiments done by the rogues. We can't banish her, for God knows what she's capable of. We haven't seen any power or potential, but for all we know, she could be a ticking time bomb waiting to blow at any moment, Riker said. Why do you think so? What has she done? Just the appearance? This is ridiculous. Her wolf is beautiful. I felt their allegations of rubbish and superstition, but Riker began to laugh and Romero looked surprised. I gave them an angry look. That's when Riker composed himself and spoke again. She has not shifted yet. That wolf you think was hers definitely belonged to someone else. I don't know why you have that confusion. What Riker said was like a bomb. I was startled. Then whose wolf was I following? It led me to Elsa. And also I heard a loud cry for help. Was it mere coincidence that Elsa was lying there wounded, as I presumed the wolf to be hers? It could be the case, but still, I needed to talk to Elsa to be sure. My trance was broken when Riker started speaking again, revealing things about Elsa. What kind of werewolf doesn't shift till 21? No one. Every wolf that we know shifts by 18. It's impossible to shift after that. And her eyes, hair, and unnaturally pale skin, they all can't be coincidence. Riker tried to make me understand, and I was beginning to understand the reason why no one liked her. Maybe no one in my pack would be willing to accept her. Then why do you have her in your pack? I asked the final question that was bothering me. Well, there is no strong reason why we should banish her. She has perfectly carried out all of her duties and never went against our pack laws. The Wolf Council will not agree to it, and we are not a strong pack. Also, I think it's better to keep something you don't understand closer to you. This time Romero answered. I can understand his dilemma. I nodded my head and left the room without speaking anything more. I wanted to be alone to reevaluate the situation. I wanted to be sure if I still wanted her. Maybe it was the pull of the silver wolf and I mistook it for her. Or maybe it was because she was a virgin. I mean, a very beautiful virgin. I certainly did not want to do anything wrong because I was physically attracted to her. While I was walking out of the pack house, lost in my own thoughts, my eyes caught a glimpse of her working on the lawn outside. She was decorating something and was totally immersed in it. Her amber hair, which I now know is not natural, was tied in a loose high bun. But some of her locks were flowing freely. Her skin radiated under the sun. Her long, slender legs were a major turn-on. I couldn't help but think about how it would feel when her long fingers were wrapped around my cock. Her face was glowing. She looked like a goddess, an angel. Her luscious, plump pink lips were tempting. I wanted to taste them. They were so inviting that I was finding it difficult to resist. She had thick eyebrows, the kind that never required any shaping. Her large, strange silver eyes magically suited her pale skin. I mean, it looked unnatural, but yet perfect. She did not look skinny, but attractive and curvier in the right places. She was wearing a loose tank top and shorts. When she was bending to pick things to decorate her section, it gave a clear view of her cleavage. It It was so inviting that only I knew how I was controlling myself. I wasn't sure if she knew that she was seducing me, but if she was doing it purposefully, it was definitely working. I tried to control my urges and gulp down my saliva. I didn't want to look at her any longer, otherwise I was going to do something reckless, and it might not be good for my pack. If she was a misfit, like Riker said, then I needed to find out more about her and her abilities and not toy around with her. I might be a fuckboy, but my pack means more to me than that. I let out a loud sigh and brushed my eyes. I let out a groan. I turned my back and started walking towards the staircase so that I could avoid seeing her. The corridor was like a big balcony, giving a full view of the lawn. I would have admired the architecture, if not for the beauty down below that was haunting me. I had hardly taken a few steps when I saw Angela approaching me. I let out a curse and tried to look elsewhere to avoid her. She was my first pick when I came here, but now things had changed. I find her appalling. This claiming was starting to feel suffocating. The one I want was a misfit, and all who want me were irritating. I was beginning to miss Davinia. I turned back to avoid Angela. I even left Davinia a voice message that I was missing her, and she must come to me. It was a win-win. Only Davinia can come and help me forget this seductress, and Angela would back off hearing me talk to her like that. But this girl was deaf. She still kept walking towards me. I paced up, and soon I was again standing in the same place where I could see Elsa clearly. My heart skipped a beat. She was mesmerizing, and I wanted to ravish her. There was no turning back. I wanted her. I was sure about it. Suddenly the world became hazy, and my focus was only on her. I jumped. It was only one story, but I guess I wouldn't have minded jumping from a higher position. I could feel all the eyes on me, but I didn't give a damn. She was immersed in her work and didn't even sense me until I was too close. She gave a shocking look and stood there as if she saw a vampire. Her eyes were bigger, her lips were parted a little. She had some paints all over her body, making her look more tempting. The attraction was undeniable. I would lie to myself if I said I didn't want her. Maybe I would have walked out if I had not seen her for a second time, but now there was no going back. I needed her like I needed oxygen. One thing I was certain of, no matter what she was, tonight I was going to claim her. Chapter 6. The Claiming, Part 1. Third-person point of view. Raphael's eyes were glued to Elsa. She was standing still, her heart racing inside her chest as she saw the imposing silhouette approaching. She wondered what caused her to become weak in the knees. She despised the playboys, and now she fantasized about him? There's so much attraction. And how can she forget his midnight black wolf? It was really beautiful. The scent was so intoxicating. Ayla was also smitten by Raphael and his wolf. She and Ayla were not that different after all. They are the same parts of her soul. At the same time, Raphael was not able to shake the undeniable attraction. Every cell of his body desired Elsa. His whole mind was enthralled with thoughts about her and the captivating smell. He could not get past the smell of her excitement. That was enough to give him an orgasm. He wondered what it would be like while he was inside of her. There was a shudder along his spine at the thought of seeing her naked, while he was buried deep inside her. He had found a new resolve, firm and solid. It didn't matter who she was or what defined her. Raphael was going to claim her the first night. He was certain that once he claimed her virginity, he would not feel the same need, and this senseless need of her would eventually be extinguished. Sometimes it was better to confront one's demons than flee from them. Elsa's amber hair fell on her face with the wind. Raphael wondered what her silver hair would look like.
Amber was a real fit for her heart-shaped face. He couldn't help but raise his hand and tuck in some strands of her hair that fell on her face behind her ear once he was closer, which earned him some gasping from all who were watching them, including the likes of Riker, Angela, and Romero. Every time their skin touched, he could feel sparks. As small as they were, there was no denying it, but both of them shrugged it off. Of course it was because of the attraction. The chemistry was pretty evident. Elsa was the first to pull herself together. She took a few steps back and stared severely. Chaste women are often proud and forward, as a presumption of merit for their chastity. She wasn't different at all. She couldn't allow this demigod to shatter her will. She wasn't going to let anyone take her purity just for any pleasure. She'll give it to whoever loves her for the rest of her life, mate or no. Though she hoped it was her mate. The physical attraction didn't mean anything to her without an emotional connection. On the other hand, Raphael stirred up a furious roar. No one had ever rejected him in the past, not once. And this simple Omega girl was rejected by everyone, had the nerve to deny his contact? He shook his head and looked away. How did that get there? His reputation up for grabs? He had a bunch of people watching him, and he'd allowed himself to be vulnerable in front of them, running after a woman, if you can call her that no one wanted. But now, she was dismissing his advances. He could not allow this to happen. He needed to reclaim it. This claiming, he was going to claim her every single night to show her that he was not someone to be messed with. She let out an angry whimper. He stared deeply into Elsa's cold and angry eyes. Something about her being angry made her sexier, more attractive. But he couldn't allow it to affect him like that. He was already on the losing end and was in dire need to turn the tables fast. He swallowed a large piece of saliva that had formed again when he looked at Elsa for the second time. He narrowed the gap between them and pulled her towards him. The sparks were all over the place. Elsa's stomach was teeming with various emotions, and Raphael was drowning in an insane pool of hormones, but neither showed their weakness outside. She was tall compared to most of the she-wolves, but Raphael was taller, perfect for him. He leaned slightly downward to reach the crook of her neck. He nuzzled her ears seductively while sending a shiver down her spine. She let out a small moan and closed her eyes. No matter how strong her resolution was, this was too much. How could she not feel the chemistry, the electricity of their contact? Raphael smiled with satisfaction at this small victory. He stopped doing the shameful thing in front of the mob that was watching them. "Tonight," he said in a low and seductive tone, before leaving her yearning for more. But when the distance increased, Elsa cursed herself for having cracked so easily. She was petrified. How was she supposed to deny his advances? He was a sex god, and she was already enamored with his charms. She trampled her foot and left the place to hide in her room before anyone told her to do anything else. It was finally nighttime, the first night of the claiming. Now that Elsa was part of the claim, another wolf was handling the duty of hospitality. Elsa wore a simple dress, not that she had a lot of options to choose from, but even so, she looked extraordinary. The male wolves from the other packs were tempted to have her, but the words had flown and everyone kept their distance from her. Raphael was surrounded by a mad number of girls, but he never let his eyes off Elsa. She felt like she had already been stripped and shagged before the claim had even begun. She was beginning to feel warm and horny, but she was drinking like crazy to control her hormones. She can't allow another scene to take place. At least she was happy that no one was swarming around her, and she's dealing with one wolf tonight. Finally, at midnight, the horn was sounded. All female wolves were standing at the edge of the forest waiting for the following signal.
Male wolves gathered in a different area where they couldn't see the female wolves. The organizers blow the next horn as a signal for the females to run inside the woods once everything was set. Few women shifted to their wolves, and most of them preferred to walk, not to ruin their makeup. Elsa could not shift in front of everyone, so she ran like crazy. At the end of 15 minutes, another horn sounded, signaling the male wolves to take their position on the tree line. After a few more minutes, they could hear the last whistle of the night. All the male wolves started racing through the forest. Some of them had already set a meeting point with their women counterparts. Hence, it did not take a long time for them to get started with the claiming process, and the rest made a run for it. Raphael, on the contrary, began looking for Elsa. That girl was so hard to come by. She had to be a runner. But it had been nearly an hour and still no record of Elsa. He began to become impatient, and his wolf threw a crisis at him. They were getting crazy about Elsa, but she was nowhere. Elsa was a fast runner, even faster than Riker, and likely everyone knew. She rapidly moved towards the waterfall. Nobody would go that far in search of her. Honestly, no one could even imagine that she would reach the waterfall. She sat under a tree watching the beautiful night sky, waiting for that crazy night to come to an end. It was over 2 hours, and Elsa had a mixed sentiment. She was disappointed and yet pleased. Elsa cursed herself for wanting that son of a bitch, but she could not understand the tantrums Ayla was starting to throw at her. Elsewhere in the forest, Raphael was getting mad. He felt impotent and frustrated. Raphael had already searched all the cabin posts, but she was nowhere. He was about ready to give up hope, wondering if another wolf had found her before him. But he had already checked every cabin to be sure she wasn't there. She must have left that arena. At least that way, Elsa was still his to be claimed. But he couldn't rely on hope and expectations. Elsa was more important to him than air. He was running out of his mind. As he was on the point of losing all hope and leaving the woods, he could hear a low sound of the nearby waterfall. His eyes sparkled in hope. How could he not consider it before? Didn't he first see her at the waterfall when he was following that intoxicating odor? He ran to the waterfall without losing 1 second. Elsa had to be there. Otherwise, he had no idea what he was going to do. Raphael wondered how anyone could have such a far-reaching effect on him, and he smiled. This feeling was new and self-fulfilling. Once he got to the waterfall, he looked everywhere for her. At last, he found her sleeping under a tree in peace. Her clothes were intact. She had not shifted. The words Riker had said, that she'd never shifted, made sense, but he didn't care. Wolf or no wolf, she looked beautiful. He chuckled amusingly. That girl felt so different. He had never seen anyone like her before. He wondered how other wolves did not get attracted to her. It was their loss and his gain. She looked like the moon goddess, so pure and serene. The moonlight fell upon Elsa's perfect face, and her pale skin glistened. She looked like some kind of fairy. He had a smile on his face. Was he in luck? He didn't know why he felt so different and special, but Raphael was glad he'd finally felt something different. He slowly walked up to her. He wanted to claim her, but his ruthless heart could not bear the pain of awakening her from sleep. She resembled a sleeping beauty. The story of the prince and the sleeping beauty flashed through his mind. He let out a smirk and stared at her plump and luscious lips. They looked like 2 rose petals begging to be kissed by him. He could not refrain from leaning towards her. The thought that he was about to steal a kiss from her was enticing. As he approached, he closed his eyes. He had never closed his eyes while kissing someone, but it felt like the right thing to do then. Elsa's warm breath on his skin was intoxicating. Elsa could feel a flush of heat on her skin. She was taken aback and opened her eyes to defend herself. She wanted to push the intruder, but
It was as if her body had acknowledged that it was Raphael and submitted immediately. She looked at him with her big, emotionally charged eyes. Her mind wanted to push him away, but her heart was crying for his lips. His eyes were closed. He seemed like he was the perfect Prince Charming. By the time Elsa could react or make a decision, Raphael's lips were already on hers. Sparks burst again between them, and Elsa could no longer compete against the attraction. Besides, this was her first kiss. It was just the right first kiss. She closed her eyes and parted her lips, giving entrance to Raphael. Raphael's heart skipped a beat when Elsa allowed him entrance without any resistance. He never felt more full and happy than he did at the time. It was an unusual feeling, so contemptuous. He swirled his tongue inside her mouth while trying to taste every bit, but he was not able to get enough. He moved his tongue around in circles to claim her mouth and mark it as his. He had already deduced that Elsa was an inexperienced kisser, and the thought of teaching her movements and the ways of doing things made him lofty. He had this feeling like he would never get tired of it. Elsa was getting kissed for the first time, and she had no idea how to respond. She wanted to kiss him back and explore her wild side, but she wasn't able to. She was scared of doing something wrong, something terrible that would end it all. The kiss was exhilarating. Elsa was new to kissing. She was soon at the end of her breath, and they parted, panting for air. The need always existed. Raphael quickly claimed her lips again, and this time it was more audacious. He had one hand wrapped around her waist. In response to his touch, Elsa arched. He smiled a little when her body reacted this way to his contact. Her reactions were not as fake as they were with other girls. Not even Divinia responded this way. In fact, even his body had never responded to anyone in such a sensual way. He was ecstatic. Once Raphael was done ravishing her mouth and biting her lips, which was probably going to swell the next morning, he realized that he needed to encourage her to make a gesture as well. He could feel her desire. The passion was too great for denying it. He slowed his pace and held her face with his other hand as they leveled their eyes. He lured her to him and encouraged her to take control. Raphael's action had set Elsa's body ablaze. The moment Raphael drew her toward him, a spark burst inside of her. She was hungry for him and could sense a new desire to kiss him back. The slack kiss was no longer enough, as it created a great deal of emptiness. She wanted it to be passionate again. Her tongue was missing his. She didn't even realize when Raphael stopped pulling her to him, and when she started moving towards him of her own will. It was as if every barrier had disappeared. There was neither disgrace nor guilt, but only a tremendous desire for him. There was an urge that grew every second. Shortly after that, it was an intense battle of tongues to win for domination. Raphael became increasingly daring, and his hand was now exploring her back above the thin cloth. Somewhere in the flood of passionate kisses and hugs, Elsa's wild side got the upper hand, and she did not hesitate to explore his bare torso. She ripped all his shirt buttons in the process, and the two were glad that she did. They had not even finished kissing each other when they heard the signal, indicating that there were only a few hours left before dawn and the end of the first night of the claiming. Raphael severed the kiss and cursed under his breath. He gazed upon Elsa in need. Elsa's eyes were full of too many feelings for him while he was overwhelmed. He picked up Elsa and proceeded to the nearest empty shack to claim what belonged to him.